everyone, welcome to our Spicy Live at 5. We are doing a little sip and stroll today in an old field blend vineyard. You may have remembered the Zinfandel vineyard last week, which is just the block next door to this that we were in. But today we're going to highlight all of these amazing old vines. There's 4 different varieties in our field blends that we make, and they're all in this vineyard. So we're going to talk about the vines, we're going to talk about how you can tell the difference between the vines, and just old field blends in general because they're so cool. We have 2 wines today that we're also going to be talking about. We have our rosé, which we have a couple bottles of our older vintages, our older rosé and our 15 Edge Red blend, and we'll be sipping on those as we go along. Thank you so much for tuning in. We love doing this and we hope you enjoy the show. So highlighting today is these old vines, and if you look at, like, for example, this old vine, this is a Carignane. There's some differences between the older vines, and Doug will talk a little bit more further on those. But if you look at the little leaves, everything's popping. This is just such a beautiful time of the year for these old vines and this vineyard in general.
Yeah, beautiful day out here in the Dry Creek Valley. We're out here at Burnett Vineyard, Dry Creek. Like Chrislyn told you, this is a Carignane vine. And so this is an old vine vineyard. If you look around, you can see Fitch Mountain in the background. This is where we do 2 of our wines. And the beautiful thing about this old vine is back in the old days, they used to just plant and scatter vines throughout the vineyard. And then they would put it all together, and that's kind of how they would drink their wines. And so this early on, you can go around and you could tell kind of the difference of the different vines. So there's 4 varieties in here. I'll talk about a couple of them right now, and then we'll open some wine. We'll talk about a couple more. But generally speaking, when you look at these old vines, they're kind of set in their own ways. They're kind of doing their own thing. But Carignane tends to be the vine that will pop first. And if you look around here, you can see scattered throughout, including the one that I'm standing at, the vines have kind of popped, and you'll see some that haven't popped, and then we'll talk about that a little bit. But this vine here is a Carignane vine. It's pretty cool. It's already starting to pop up a little bit. If you look over here, if Chrislyn can zoom in over here, you can see just a little bit of the bud break right here. You see it over here. You see those little buds starting to come up right there? So that's the start of the bud. That's the bunches right there. That's what the grapes are going to be. It's very fragile right now. Super, super fragile. That's why we don't like a lot of heavy rains this time of the year, because it can knock that off and it could really mess it up. But the Carignane in this vineyard, just from our knowledge, generally is the one that's going to pop up first and get some of those bud first. And it's a very fragile, but that's that fruit that we use. And if we can keep moving along here in the vineyard, if you look that way, which is hard to see on the camera, over on the other side is the block of our old vine Zin. And the old vine Zin here is generally the last to come up. It's the last to kind of pop. And so if you look here, you can see there's nothing happening on this vine yet. This would be a Zin vine in the middle of this mix, where if you look right next to it, again, the Carignane here pops first. And so if you look at the Carignane, you can see you've got bud break everywhere. You can see a little bit, again, if you zoom in here, Chrislyn, you see all this beautiful stuff right there. Over here, you see with the Carignane, it's already kind of starting. You see how small it is compared to my finger? It's kind of already starting. The Zin here, the Zin is just kind of taking its time. There's nothing happening right now with the Zin. And the block over, which is our Zin Master Old Vine Zin, the whole vineyard looks like this. It hasn't even really started yet. So it's usually a little bit behind, but once the Zin starts cranking, it really starts cranking. And so as you walk through here, this little section, you can kind of get an idea of a few of the vines. You know, we got some Zin here. We got a Zin over here. We got a Carignane right next door to it right here. You know, because you can see again as we zoom in, look at how beautiful and fragile this stuff is. You see there? See how teeny that is?
That's a grape.
That's going to be a bunch. That'll be a bunch of grapes, and this will be Carignane. The majority of the vines in this block are Carignane. We do have scattered the Zin, like we showed you here. This one has started to pop just a little bit on the Zinfandel. And then we also have some Cinsault and some Grenache that we're going to show you too. But come this way. We have some secrets over here. Come on. So it's kind of beautiful. Over in this place over here, we have some wine. So this is some wine tasting. And so let's remind you that if you do not have any wine open, this is the time that you should be opening your wine. Today we're going to do the very first wines we made off this vineyard that we're in right now. The very two first wines we made were our 2015 Violet Rose and our 2015 Edge Field Blend that comes from this vineyard. So right now we are going to open these wines, and I'm going to transition it back over to Crystalline and get my finger out of the way. And then she's going to show you.
We're doing a handoff today.
Yeah, so we're doing handheld, handoff vineyard tasting today. So we're going to be moving back and forth. And while Crystalline's opening this, look how cool these vines are, man. Like, look at all that old moss, and like you see, look at the color and how cool these vines are. I mean, they have a history and just a character all to themselves. Look at all that moss on there. It's absolutely gorgeous. And so let me zoom back out here. Crystalline's gonna open some wine, huh?
So vineyard strolls are always more fun with a little wine while you're strolling. A little wine in your glass. So I'm pouring our 2015 Violet Rose Rosé right now. First rosé we made off this vineyard, so it's really special to us. Also very special for Doug because it's named after his grandma, Violet Rose. One of my favorite wines, actually, that we've made, but I always say that. But it is really one of my favorites. I get a lot of really beautiful strawberry off of this wine. It's like a strawberry creamsicle. If you remember as a kid, creamsicles, they were probably my favorite ice cream desserts ever. This is like a strawberry creamsicle to me, 100% all the way. We unfortunately don't have more of this wine, but we're enjoying it today with you guys while we're doing our little vineyard walk. You want me to hold that?
I want to cheers you.
Oh, okay. So yummy. And yeah, it's just a really beautiful example of the field blend. The field blends add so much diversity and so much complexity just because you have all of these different varieties that are into these wines. That's kind of the intention of the original field blends, is to sprinkle all these different varietals together so they're intended to be made together as a wine, which is super cool. One of the most fascinating things too about these vines is they genetically mutate over time. So, for example, this vine over the course of 100 years that it's been planted is not the same as the original cultivar that it was. It's evolved, and it's evolving to the environment, to the climate, to the soil. So these vines just have so much history to them, and they've evolved into their own little beasts. They tap the water table below because their root system is also so incredibly deep. So they're really, really cool. We can't get enough of these vines or this vineyard, which is why we're bringing you back here today, but to talk about the old field blend.
Yeah, and let's like go over here. Let's look at this right here. So one of the things I'm going to show you here, and we're going to do a handoff, is Crystalline's going to zoom into this. I mean, these vines actually, they start growing like trees, and look at the size of this trunk. If you can come on down here and you look at the size of this trunk, like it's probably would take two more of my hands for me to go all the way around this trunk. And if you come over here, the animals also start to come in here. If you look at, there's probably a field mouse or something that's living in there, or maybe a bird that nested into these vines. And so over time, these vines get hollowed out and they'll die because you have animals that come in here and then they just find little homes and they live inside this vineyard. But if you can see, look at how massive the arms are on this. I mean, and then, because in the old days, like we've talked about before, they used to grow them like trees. And when we're here, so I'm standing here and this is just starting to break, and I'm 6'2", right? And you can see this vine is almost as tall as I am. And then this thing, when it is in full, the canopy of this is just like a tree. So when I come through here and I'm looking at grapes, everything is actually well over me come fall time. And you're just walking down these rows and it's just everything's towering over you, which is actually really cool and really beautiful, So this vineyard is a fun old vineyard. It's a cornucopia of different things. So let's see if we can find
Grenache or Cinsault.
Yeah, let's look. So remember we showed you
it's like an Easter egg hunt.
I'm hunting, right? I showed you the Zin, and I showed you the Carignane. I told you the difference between the two. So in this vineyard, the Grenache and the Cinsault, they tend to grow a little smaller. If you look at the Zin and the Carignane vines, they're pretty massive and pretty big. But when you look at the Grenache in this vineyard and you look at the Cinsault in this vineyard, the vines tend to be a little bit smaller. So, and they tend not to get as massive. And they're in the middle of the break between when the Zin comes out and when the Carignane comes out. The Grenache is kind of in the middle. So come on this way and we'll see if we can find some. Yeah, so good examples. Right here is a great example of a Cinsault, where it is not quite as big as you can see, and it's kind of just starting. If you come over here, Crystalline, you can see the breaks are just kind of starting to happen, and it's kind of in between, kind of where the Carignane is at this stage, and where the Zin is at this stage. And so this is kind of a cool example of that. And then over here, I got to show you a really cool example of some Grenache. But we're going to walk a couple rows. So, Julie, we got to remember where our wine is. Okay? The wine's over there. Because we got to get back to the wine.
I see
right?
it.
So, but these are some great examples of some Grenache up here. So you look how short and fat they are. So if you look at this vineyard here, this vine, yeah. If you look at any of these vines right here, if you look at this one, if you look at this one, so you see compared, see I'm standing next to this. You see it's below my waist. Where when we were next to the Carignane and the Zin vines, you see how tall they were? They were like almost as tall as I am. But look at the base of this. It's still pretty thick, right? But the Grenache vines, they just don't grow to the mass and as large as the Zin and the Carignane vines do. And you can also look, you can see, remember I said it's kind of going to be a little bit ahead of where the Zin is and a little bit behind of where the Carignane is. And you can see that here. You can see where it hasn't quite, it's breaking. You get the leaves on it, but it's not quite got any of the little bunches coming out yet. And again, you can see kind of all the cool old moss on it. And just look at, this is time. You know, look at the rust color on it. And it's not, it looks like a baby compared to the size, but this is just as old. This is just as old as those big tall vines we were showing you, except it's a Grenache. So Grenache tends to, in this vineyard tends to stay, you know, they get that big fat roundness, but it just doesn't get up as massive as the other vines that we were showing you over there. So you want to walk back and try to get wine?
Let's walk.
You want me to talk? You want to switch?
Vineyard.
Yeah, vineyard view.
Vineyard view.
So we're making our way back to
our wine.
To where the wine is, so we can open up the other bottle. So this 15, I mean, a lot of you guys out there that's had this 15, remember, look at the color of it. It's very luminant. First rosé we made off this vineyard, and we fell so much in love with it, we kept on making rosé from this vineyard. So let's make our way back over here and find possibly where we left the wine.
Whoop, surprise. There we are. Ba-ba-da-ba.
Voila!
Second wine of the day.
Second wine of the day. And we'll zoom back out and we'll let Crystalline
drink our rosé.
Drink the rosé. We're going to drink the rosé.
Yeah, it's so good. This rosé is amazing.
And while she's opening it, I'm going to give you a quick pan so you can see kind of where we are with these old vines. Just kind of 360 pan. We're in the vineyard. There's our winery truck. Coming back around. And then we're going to come back around over here. And there's Crystalline opening some wine. And as you can see, it's a beautiful day here. Not quite as windy as the last time we were out here in the Zin vineyard. But a little bit more cloudier, but kind of beautiful. And while she's opening that, I just have to show you this. I mean, I know I've showed you this already, but I'm just in love with this. I mean, this old moss just like growing all over this is just crazy. And so even though some of these vines might die, it's still alive because this moss is alive.
If you guys have been to our tasting room, you'll notice that we have two out front of our tasting room which still have the moss growing on them, which is so cool. There's also the two vines that are in the tasting room that the artist has, you know, stripped the bark from and the moss, which is also very cool because you can see the grain from all this beautiful old bark that's been growing, or the vine itself that's been growing. But I like the moss. I love it. It's really, really cool. Would you like some wine?
Yes, please.
So this is our 15 vintage of our Edge Red blend. A few episodes back, I can't remember how many episodes back at this point, we talked about the 16 vintage. This is obviously the one prior to that. We put a little bit of Petite Sirah on this one, so it's a little bit heavier, a little bit inkier than the 16, which is a little bit lighter, a little bit earthier. But basically the same varietal makeup, a little Grenache, Zin, Cinsault, Carignane, and then we add a little bit of that Petite Sirah in here. Actually, probably our most awarded wine to date. This wine received a few double gold and a couple gold medals.
They're all highly awarded, Chrislyn.
Not that that matters, but it's people really, really like the Edge Red blend. It's one of the favorite wines here at Spicy Vines, and it's made off this vineyard. So very, very cool. And it's a beautiful day for this. We just couldn't help being outside today. It's been so beautiful, and I'm sure everyone who's at home is a little bit tired of just sitting at home. It's just nice to get out and breathe a little fresh air and get out in the sun, and we couldn't think of a better place than this beautiful vineyard to be back, so we're here. We would like to take you guys to Pine Mountain as well. Our reception there is a little bit iffy, so we came back here, and I think we're going to try to figure out how to record that where we have good reception for you guys for one of our next few episodes, so you guys can check out some different vineyards that we work with. But this is certainly one of our favorites, so we wanted to be back here today.
All right, well, let's zoom back in over here and show you some more beautiful things that are happening with the vines. Like, show you, these are called nodes here. So the nodes are when they first start breaking. So you see, if you look at it and you come all the way into here, you see those little masterpieces right here. Let me show you. That's called the nodes. If you look at those right there. And so it's the most fragile part of the vine. And it's when, you know, we really don't want any heavy rain or anything like that, or frost or anything at this point. Because the hail, anything like that, because that's basically that's gonna knock that off, and then it's sayonara when it comes to anything. You see how beautiful that is on the vine? Just super close. If I can get it, if the camera will light me. I mean, it's not very happy right now, but.
I mean, what would you feel this year? I mean, we've had kind of a mild winter, you know, and we did have hail a few weeks ago, which was, we were hoping, you know, we wouldn't have too much of that, but it seemed like it was every other day for that 1 week.
Yeah, I mean, it's been, for the most part, it's been kind of a mild growing region. It's been, or growing year, a little bit dry. I mean, really, February is a month where we normally get a fair amount of rain. We got zero precipitation in the month of February. And it was actually warm and very nice. It was like spring was starting to come early. And then when we got into March, then the temperatures cooled down and we started to get the weather that we normally get in February. But the vines they seem to be doing well. Doesn't look like there's any major damage or anything. It looks very happy. And so I think, you know, depending on what summer brings for us, we could have another remarkable year out here in these vines. The difference when these old vines, I mean, as Chrislyn pans around, I mean, these vines are like your grandmother or your great-great-grandmother. They're set in their ways. You know, you're not going to tell her how to make coffee. You're not going to tell her how to toast her toast. And you're not going to tell her that she can't go to the grocery store. You're not going to tell her to stay home. You're not going to tell her that she can't go to the pharmacy. It's just, there's, you know, older people, I'm getting older, are set in their ways. And when you look at these vines, they're kind of set in their ways. Some of these root systems, when you come down and you look at these old vines like this Carignane, the roots go down like 8 to 14 feet. So they're well into the water table. And if you notice also, if you look around here, do you see any irrigation? There's no irrigation. It's all dry farm because the roots are so far down into the ground, they are kind of just already doing their own thing. Not really a lot of irrigation needed because the roots are so settled in. And so if you want, you can we can take a walk. You want to take a walk?
Yeah. I'm enjoying this wine. It's so good. I'm getting a lot of spice.
Yeah, this is really good. So if we come over here, we're going to show you the Zin block. Even though we're not drinking any of the Zin today, we could take a little walk with you and we could show you kind of the Zin block. And you can see when I'm talking about how the Zin is just a little bit behind the field blend block. Because when you see over here, when we take a look at the Zin, there's really nothing happening, is there?
Yeah, you're not seeing all the little buds.
So do you see any of the green here in the Zin like we saw? If you turn back, if Crystalline turns to the field blend, look at all the green that's on those vineyards. A lot of Carignane, Cinsault, Grenache. The bulb vines on there are basically a lot of the Zin. And when you come over here, for example, I can show you. You can see. See, the Zin's just starting to come to life. You see?
Oh, there's a couple. There you
You see there? You see how small it is? Taste of my finger. So the Zin is just a little bit behind the Carignane, the Cinsault, the Grenache, but it's starting to come to life for sure. Which is always a challenge when we talk about a field blend vineyard. Always a challenge, and the challenge is the uneven ripening. Because Zin in itself is a challenge as far as getting even ripening, especially with these old vines. But when you talk about a field blend, one of these old field blends where you have multiple vines and multiple cultivars in a field blend, they all ripen differently. So it's always a balance. It's like juggling balls. It's always a challenge to pick them at the time where one, like the Carignane's not so ripe and the Zin is underripe. You got to kind of get it where everything is working together. So that's the fun and the beauty of working with old field blends, but it's also from year to year a very big challenge because of the fact that you have 4 different cultivars in there that always break and ripen at different times. It's always a big balance of making sure you get it in at one time. So we don't go through here, as we can walk back towards the field blend. We don't go through here and we don't like pick each of the different varieties separately.
It all gets picked together.
We pick it all at one time and treat it like a true field blend. And you can see here, this is starting to pop a little bit. It's kind of fun here. You can see, if you can get in here, you can see the little spider who's now running for its life. It's right there. And then look at the size of the spider compared to the little node coming out. Super small compared to the size of my finger. Kind of cool, huh? And we call this stuff work. But when we come back, and you come back and we just cross from one block to the next, you can see what's going on in this block. A lot of the Carignane's happy and popping. The Zin is just starting, as we just showed you over there. Carignane's rocking and rolling. The Cinsault, it's a little bit behind, but still cranking. And everything here, it's looking pretty good, don't you think, Crystalline?
Looks amazing.
And the fun thing, come over here. Let me show you something. Yeah. We're just having a walk in the vine today, drinking wine. Cheers to you.
Cheers.
No, we do lose some, as you can see. This is a dead soldier. It's rotten from the outside. These are super cool. When Crystalline said about having an old vine hanging in our tasting room, we have a couple of these standing outside of our tasting room. We do get, if anybody's interested, about a half a dozen or so of these that die off of this vineyard every year. And so, you know, you can talk to us if you want one for a planter for your house. Do we have a waiting list? I don't know. Maybe. Maybe. But this is one that's now has passed on. So it's sayonara.
It's amazing too because the root system at a certain point will just kind of, I mean, the vines are dying. You can literally just pick these up out of the ground. And so we have some really, really cool vines that we like to play around with and put outside and decorate with, and it's so much fun.
You want to walk back and get some more wine?
Yeah, let's do it.
Let's see if Crystalline can find where the wine is. So this is a game we're playing. Find the wine in the vineyard. Because I tried to get her lost, but I think she's.
You give me wine, so I get lost.
Yes, but I think she's doing a good job of like sniffing it out.
So the wine is tasting amazing. I kind of almost forgot the amount of spice that you get in this particular vintage. I'm getting a lot of anise, rosé, or do you want more?
I think I'll do whatever you give me, Crystalline.
I'm sticking with red because I'm enjoying this one a lot right now. It does feel like a rosé today, but the edge is tasting really, really good. And it's always fun to break open some of those older vintages. If you guys have some lying around, it's the time. It's a nice, you know, especially if you have two vintages, you know, side by side, do a little mini vertical. We had, you know, it was really nice to enjoy a vertical of some old wines that we had the other night, and just tasting one year from the next and seeing how much it changes, just depending on, you know, what that Mother Nature gave us that particular year in terms of just the weather and, you know, everything that goes into making wine. Every year is so completely different, like life should be. And this is a really, really beautiful vintage. This is the 2015 Edge Red Blend. If anyone is going online to purchase wine, we still have our promo code up. Stay home is our promo code. You get 15% off all your wines, and we have our hand sanitizers. All of our orders this week have been delayed to Monday because we had such a high demand of hand sanitizers. We're getting more in. So those will be in on Friday, and we'll be shipping out again on Monday. But please use the promo code online and take advantage of it while you're home. Sip home. You can't eat out, sip at home. It's a good, you know, we encourage it. But this has been a very fun little thing for us to do on Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays. And we have some fun episodes coming up too that we have in store for you guys. So Doug's cueing me here that he has something to say. Or read. Yes.
We should all remember this. Right? And here, Kristen, cheers.
Very good. Cheers.
Let me see, what time do we have? We have 3 more minutes. We have 3 more minutes. 3 more minutes to say hello, goodbye, and that we love you all. And we hope you enjoy this. We're going to try to bring you more. We'll get outside the spicy studio and try to get into some of the vineyards that we work with, and try to get outside now that the weather is getting a little nicer, and show you a part of the magic of where we live, and what we love about Mother Earth, and what we love about what she gives us in these beautiful grapes. And life is fragile. I mean, when you come out here and you look at this, you know, if Crystalline can zoom in here like we talked about earlier, if you look at that, just that, how small it is compared to my finger, that's going to turn into a big bunch of grapes. And so just like, you know, a newborn baby, just like for the fragility of life, life is very fragile, and you have to respect it at every stage. And certainly the vines this time of the year, they teach you that it is fragile, and it's important to nurture it all the way through. You know, this is the most fragile stage that the vineyard will be in all year long, and there's the only thing that's protecting it is those little teeny leaves right there. That's the only thing that's protecting it from all the elements that are out here. It's a beautiful thing.
It is a beautiful thing.
And we thank you for watching.
Yes.
Every Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 5 o'clock. I think this is like episode 11 or something like that we've done. Thank you for bearing with us. This has all been handheld, unedited, and also we tried to do transitions. I hope you like our transitions between handing off the camera, and hopefully it worked really well. And like Crystalline said, we're going to try to get on top of Pine Mountain. The problem with Pine Mountain is that it is Pine Mountain, and it's remote as hell, and there's zero reception. So we're going to figure that out, because we want to show you that view, because we love the wines we make from there. And maybe next week we'll move you from the vineyard into the barrel room, and we'll talk some barrel tasting. What do you think, Kristen? We'll talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, we have some fun ideas in store for you guys.
Yeah, and once we can get Mr. Adam out of quarantine, maybe we can get him to play a song or two.
No pressure, Adam.
No pressure, Adam. Okay. But hey, thank you very much. I'll grab, Kristen, maybe you can grab it, and we can do a cheers for you, and we can do a cheers for you like this. We really appreciate you guys. We thank you for everything. Spread love, not viruses. If you're running short of wine, you can buy wine. We'll ship it to you with some hand sanitizer. And we love you all. Peace and love. And thank you for being you.
Thank you. Bye.